now available in paperback and e-readers. Isis, Revenge of the Cyber Goddess. The goddess next door takes on the threat of a deadly digital diva driven to destroy the world in this action-packed, all-new Isis series adventure. Get Isis, Revenge of the Cyber Goddess featuring a bonus pin-up and the other 2 books in the Cyber Goddess saga at online bookstores everywhere today. There's a contingent of so-called comic fans from the social justice group on social media who are extremely upset that Steve Rogers is returning to the Marvel Cinematic Universe. Now, according to online reports, the Avengers Doomsday trailer will feature Steve Rogers prominently as one of the main characters in Avengers Doomsday, and other trailers will feature Thor featured in another trailer that's coming soon. But this report of Steve Rogers being a main character in Avengers Doomsday has a lot of these social media, social justice types in their feelings. Now, these people are saying that Steve Rogers returning to Avengers Doomsday really is a step back as related to the Marvel Cinematic Universe, which has been on a major state of decline. And these people are sitting here upset, saying that Steve Rogers' return basically says that Sam Wilson will not be Captain America and will be again placed in a more marginalized role. Now, when it comes down to these people, I have to say that they're completely full of it, because while these people go out here and are keyboard warriors online, they haven't been out here looking to support the Marvel Cinematic Universe with their money, and that's the main reason why Steve Rogers is returning after 6 years of complete failure as related to the Marvel Cinematic Universe, with Phase 4, and Fail 5, Phase 5 of the Marvel Cinematic Universe, where Kevin Feige foolishly went out here and looked to appeal to modern audiences by looking to adapt the material of the all-new, all-different Marvel, and wound up with completely disastrous results. And as a result of that Phase 4, and Fail 5, Phase 5, having these extremely disastrous results, Marvel Studios is now just in a state where they are in such decline that they're looking to participate in an act of desperation by bringing back Robert Downey Jr. to be Doctor Doom, the new lead villain for the Marvel Cinematic Universe, and hoping to bring Steve Rogers back as Captain America, possibly to be the main character of the story, in an effort to try to save or salvage the Marvel Cinematic Universe and turn it back into the box office juggernaut that it once was at one time. But this is a thing that upsets many of the social media, social justice types, who basically are saying that Sam Wilson is the one being screwed, and Anthony Mackie in connection is also being screwed, because he's not going to be allowed to be Captain America anymore. But I'm just looking at it from a business perspective, and what's happening here with the Marvel Cinematic Universe is that they're looking to try to course correct after 6 years of complete failures at the box office and an oversaturation of what many call social justice content. And because what they're looking to course correct and try to get the Marvel Cinematic Universe back on track, these people are saying that the Captain America that's black is being done dirty. But I just see it as business as usual for Marvel Studios, who basically want to get back in the black after 6 years of being in the red, and seeing much of the merchandise related to the Marvel Cinematic Universe winding up completely languishing at Ollie's. Now, my critical question to many of those who are a part of the social justice social media mob, who sit there and say, oh, this is something being done to try to stop diversity, is where were you when these films like Captain America Brave New World were being released at the theater over the course of the last 6 years. I mean, where were all of these social justice types who go online, like places like Twitter, going out here tweeting up a storm? Where were you with your money to go to these movies at the theater? I mean, the big problem that these people don't understand is that movies are a business and the studios basically make what makes money. And when it comes down to the superhero genre, many of the loudest voices online are not the ones showing up at the theater. And even worse, when content is made for them, they don't show up in large enough numbers to basically offset all of the die-hard long-term comic fans like myself who have been fans of these characters for over 40 years. Many of us who were fans of these characters ever since we were maybe 4 or 5 years old, like myself, we didn't want to see Sam Wilson be shoehorned in a token role as Captain America. We didn't want to see She-Hulk pushing feminism and identity politics, and we didn't want to see a feminist version of the Marvels. No, what we wanted was the action and adventure we got in the first 3 phases of the Marvel Cinematic Universe, but that basically was replaced by the adaptation of the all-new, all-different Marvel, and as a result of that adaptation, all Marvel Studios did was alienate many of the long-term fans like myself who basically walked away from Marvel Studios films because they started to deviate from the source material that basically was stuff we grew up with. And as a result, Marvel Studios started having flops, starting with films that basically underperformed, like Doctor Strange and the Multiverse of Mediocrity, Thor, Love, and Blunder, and eventually started to have flops like the Captain Marvel sequel, The Marvels, and films like Captain America Brave New World, and it basically looked like the end of the world for Marvel Studios, and that's why they're basically, again, trying to correct course by looking to create a trailer to spur interest back in their films. And the way they get the interest of not only the comic fan core audience, but the casual audience is to bring back Steve Rogers, because in the eyes of most Americans, Steve Rogers is Captain America. The story of Captain America is based in Steve Rogers, not Sam Wilson, and no matter how much these social justice, social media types want to try to say that Sam Wilson is Captain America, you can't gaslight the audience into believing something that's not true. No, everything with Captain America that made him a hero is Steve Rogers, and Steve Rogers basically became a hero because he wanted to fight and stand up for his country, and that's the reason why people identified with him back in the 1940s, and why his character resonates to today. And you can't take away a hero story because that's what defines them. And the mistake Marvel Studios made was thinking, oh, Captain America is just a name, and we can just put it on another character like they did in Avengers Endgame. No, the audience wasn't buying it, and that's why they stopped buying tickets for Marvel Cinematic Universe movies. Now, when it comes down to Avengers Doomsday, I'm not expecting this movie to do well based on what I've seen as related to previous films that basically did things like have overloaded casts. I mean, when I look at Avengers Doomsday with a cast of over 70 people, it basically is not enough time for this film to basically develop all those characters when you have Fantastic Four, Avengers, X-Men, and Doctor Doom in one movie. This is basically a recipe for disaster as related to film based on what I know about storytelling as related to screenplays, but Marvel Studios is desperate at this point, and they're desperate enough to try to bring back Steve Rogers, hoping that Steve Rogers and his story will basically be the thing that retcons the entire Marvel Cinematic Universe, because that's what they're basically doing here, is looking to retcon the Marvel Cinematic Universe and basically look to wash the sour taste of the all new, all different Marvel and many of the horrible concepts that were produced at that time, such as Ironheart, such as She-Hulk Attorney at Law, and many of the Marvel Cinematic Universe shows that were on Disney Plus, and movies like Shang-Chi. And it wouldn't surprise me if they had Doctor Doom basically go out here and take out all of these characters, treat them like WWE jobbers, and basically have it where these guys get washed and folded like laundry over the course of the movie to let everyone know that these characters will not be a part of the Marvel Cinematic Universe anymore, and the main focus will be on the characters that made Marvel Studios great. And I basically am thinking that if they do the trailer of a Thor, we're no longer going to see this nerfed beta male comedy character anymore. We're going to see a more serious Thor, and we're going to see a more serious tone with the Marvel Cinematic Universe as it walks away from the comedy that basically turned the Marvel Cinematic Universe to a laughingstock and basically drove away an entire generation of fans. That's possibly what I think is going to happen here, but many of these people on social media, again, they're the ones complaining the loudest, but they were not spending their money at all. And that's par for the course when it comes to these social justice, social media types. They'll get on Twitter and tweet up a storm, but when it's time to open up their wallet and go out here and spend their money on a movie ticket or spend their money on a comic book, they don't show up at all. And this is why Marvel Studios and Marvel Comics are in the worst condition that they're in. I mean, where were all of those people when it was time to buy the Miles Morales, Spider-Man, Kamala Khan, Ms. Marvel, Carol Danvers, Captain Marvel, Amadeus Cho, Hulk, Riri Williams, Ironheart? I mean, if these people didn't show up at the comic shop to pick up the comics, then there was no way that they were going to show up for the movies. But Kevin Feige continued to go on, and he wound up paying the price for his folly with, again, with a declining box office and a whole group of alienated comic fans. And now he's basically being forced to, again, eat humble pie as he's forced to retreat and go back to the people who basically made the Marvel Cinematic Universe and basically walk away from that modern audience that don't have no money, that be sitting up in the internet cafe, on one cup of coffee or one cup of tea that they basically put all their money together to be on the internet, again, dropping all these tweets or dropping these tweets from their mama's house. Again, none of these people have their own money, because if they had their own money, they'd have been buying Disney Plus subscriptions for all the shows that were made for them, and they would have been going out here to these movies that they say that they wanted. Because what I find with a lot of these people who are a part of that social justice, social media mob, again, they say they want things, but that's not how it works in business. Again, you can say that you want something, but if you are not out here with your money to go out here and spend your money on those products, then that company no longer needs to listen to you, and they don't need to listen to you because you're not going out here making demands with your money. And what it flies over the heads of these folks is they don't understand that businesses listen to the paying customers. They listen to the paying customers, and there were customers who were out here paying billions of dollars to watch movies up to Avengers Endgame, and sadly Marvel Studios wound up alienating those customers to try to find the customers of the new modern audience that they should have seen did not exist, because these people, again, they didn't show up at the comic shop with their money, and that should have been an indicator to them how full of it these folks are. Because if you don't show up at the comic shop with your money to go pick up these books, then nobody needs to take you seriously. I mean, when it comes down to books like, again, Kamala Khan, Ms. Marvel, books like the Amadeus Cho, totally awesome Hulk, the female Thor, the Black Captain America, and Riri Williams, these books basically sold in the 5 to maybe 10,000. And I would dare to say maybe even lower than that. But but Marvel Studios is supposed to continue to spend hundreds of millions of dollars on projects that many of these people don't even watch. And again, that's just absolutely ridiculous when you think about it. I mean, you're sitting up here complaining, oh, Sam Wilson didn't get his chance. No, he did get his chance. He was given the shield at Avengers Endgame. He was given a show, The Falcon and the Winter Soldier, that didn't do well. And then he was given a movie that basically was costing $300 million, and he basically couldn't again carry a movie. No, couldn't carry a movie even with a Hulk. It's basically a Hulk sequel. Sam Wilson couldn't carry the business as related to being Captain America, and many of the characters of all different Marvel couldn't carry the company to any sort of profitability as related to sales. So when it comes down to Marvel, again, this is a business, not a handout. And basically what they're trying to do now with Avengers Doomsday, which I believe is too little too late, is go out here and hopefully try to save the business, of Marvel Studios, and possibly try to save it in an effort to save things. But I believe things are just too done at this point. As related to Phase 4, and Phase 5, Phase 5, the damage is basically done at this point. And with the damage being done at this point, basically what is happening here is that Marvel Studios is going to have to go out here and basically do a hard reset, because you can't go out here and do a retcon like they did many years with comics like The Crossing, where they basically, again, with The Crossing, they tried to say Tony Stark was a pawn of Kang, and basically he was made into a bad guy as related to things, and it didn't go well. And they wound up rebooting the Avengers and many other Marvel titles that suffered from bad writing. And they're trying to do this with movies, but the movie audience is different. No, once you put out something in a film, it's considered to be canon. And once something is considered to be canon within a film, basically people don't care at that point, because movie audiences are very different from comic book audiences. Yeah, a comic book audience will sit there and deal with things like retcons, but a movie audience isn't going to deal with that at all. No, a movie audience is just going to call it a day, and that's where I believe that the Marvel Cinematic Universe is at this point. The audience is basically ready to move on to something different. They're ready to move on to new films, and that's what the guys over at DC are finding out with their new Supergirl trailer. They're finding out the audience is ready to move on. They want some romantic comedies. They want some comedies. They want some dramas. They want anything that's not men in tights. And basically that's the direction that things are going, because the superhero movie has had its day. No different than the westerns of the 50s, the spy craze of the 60s, the new Hollywood era of the 70s, and many of the action movies in the 80s, or the big budget movies of the 90s. I mean, Hollywood films go through phases, and what's happening now is that Hollywood is going through a change, again, as related to its business. And when it comes down to this whole move to get Steve Rogers back as Captain America, it's an effort that's being made too little too late, as I believe, being made too little too late as related to things, because once general audiences, again, you get one chance to make a first impression, and sadly, as we went from Iron Man to Avengers Endgame, we had a good first impression, but that impression has been lost, and sadly, as that impression has been lost, sadly, what's happened is that people basically have moved on, and trying to get things back will not possibly save the whole superhero movie genre that people these days are basically burnt out on. And the social justice social media mob basically help kill this business with their complaining. Again, these are the people who, again, scream the loudest but didn't have the money. And again, any smart studio executive would have been looking at those dollars before they went out here and spent money to invest in these people. They would have looked at the sales numbers on those books from Comic-Con and saw, hey, these books ain't selling. These people can complain online all they want, but we're looking at the dollars that they spend, and it doesn't make sense to go out here and spend money on broke people who, again, are talking what people call woke, but they're just broke and just sitting here looking for, again, some attention as related to things. And the only thing you can do with people like this is to ignore them, because if you're not spending dollars on a product, it doesn't make sense to listen to you. No, paying customers are the ones you listen to. And sadly, Marvel Studios didn't listen to its paying customers, and now it's going back to try to get those paying customers back into theaters to go see Avengers Doomsday. But this film might be again at its doomsday because of the just overloaded cast, and it just being another case of, once again, it being too little too late to save this franchise. Now, if you want to check out my first full comic, John Haynes at Death's Door, that comic is available on Lulu.com in paperback for the same price as it was on the 2022 Kickstarter. And my other comic, Esteem No Good Deed, is available on Kindle for just 99 cents, and you can pick up a paper version in the Esteem series book, Esteem Blast from the Past. And if you want to check out an entire universe of action and adventure the way I would write it, you can check out the SJS Direct Universe books on Amazon.com, and there you can find books like the ISIS series, the Esteem series, the John Haynes series, books like Spinsterella, and the Thetas and Eternal Night that make up the SJS Direct Universe, and check out action and adventure with African American characters in African American fantasy. And you can find those books on Amazon.com in paperback and Kindle format. You can also find them at other online digital bookstores like Drafted Digital, Google Play, and you can also find them again in ebook format at those platforms. You can also find them in paperback at places like Barnes & Noble, Walmart, and Target. That's all I have to say for this video. You can comment, rate, and subscribe. Now available on Lulu. John Haynes at Death's Door. The man who rules the world takes on the Greek god of death in this action-packed, all-new John Haynes comic book. Get your copy of the first John Haynes comic at Lulu.com today. Now available in paperback and Kindle Unlimited. John Haynes, the man with nothing to lose. The man who rules the world runs into the irresistible force of a man with nothing to lose in this action-packed, all-new John Haynes series adventure. Get the regular and variant editions of John Haynes, the man with nothing to lose on Amazon.com today. Now available in paperback and e-readers. E-Steam Council Vacation. Hell's aspiring angel takes on a social justice, social media mob looking to cancel her in this all-new E-Steam series adventure. Get E-Steam Council Vacation in paperback and e-readers today. Support Black-owned and Black-operated digital broadcast media. www.niceradionetwork.com. Nice Radio Network, broadcasting 24 hours a day, 7 days a week.